Today's lesson is called lunar eclipse. If you look here, you will find this is the sun, this is the earth, and this is the moon. Sun, earth, moon. They are on one straight line. One straight line. And the earth in the middle, hiding sunlight from reaching the moon. Hiding sunlight from reaching the moon. So this is called lunar eclipse. It's called what? Lunar eclipse. If you remember what I told you about the solar eclipse, in the solar eclipse, the sun, the earth, the moon are on one straight line, but the moon in the middle. Hiding sunlight from reaching the earth. But here in the lunar eclipse, the sun, the earth, the moon are on one straight line and the earth in the middle, hiding sunlight from reaching the moon. Okay, look here. This is the sun, this is the earth, and this is the moon. The earth in the middle, hiding sunlight from reaching what? From reaching the moon. Hiding sunlight from reaching the moon. Okay? Okay. More information about the lunar eclipse. Lunar eclipse. It happens twice per year. It happens twice per year. It doesn't require any precautions because it doesn't harm eyes. It happens in the middle of the lunar months when the moon is a full moon. When the moon is a full moon. It lasts for 1 hour or 2 hours or 3 hours. I can see lunar eclipse at night. I can see lunar eclipse at night. So again, lunar eclipse, it happens twice per year. It doesn't require any precautions because it doesn't harm eyes. It happens in the middle of the lunar months when the moon is a full moon. It lasts or it takes 1 hour or 2 hours or more than 2 hours. I can see lunar eclipse at night. Okay? Now, what are the types of lunar eclipse? What are the types of lunar eclipse? We have here only 2 types of lunar eclipse. Total lunar eclipse and partial lunar eclipse. Total lunar eclipse and partial lunar eclipse. There is no annular lunar eclipse here. If you remember in the solar eclipse, I told you that we have 3 types of solar eclipse. Total solar eclipse, partial solar eclipse, and annular solar eclipse. Here we have only 2, total lunar eclipse and partial lunar eclipse. What is the difference between them? Look at the picture here. This is the sun, this is the earth, and this is the moon. They are on one straight line. The earth in the middle, hiding sunlight from reaching the moon. And here we can see 2 shadow area of the earth. 2 shadow area of the earth. One of them is called umbra, the dark one. The darkest one is called umbra, and the faint one is called the penumbra. Total lunar eclipse. Total lunar eclipse, it is a lunar eclipse which happens when the whole moon enters the shadow area umbra of the earth. If you look here, this is the moon. The whole moon here, we are in the umbra. The whole moon here in the umbra, in the very dark shadow area of the earth. In the very dark shadow area of the earth, which is called what? Which is called umbra. So when the whole moon enters the shadow area umbra of the earth, so in this case, total lunar eclipse will take place. Again, when the whole moon enters the shadow area umbra of the earth, so in this case, the total lunar eclipse will happen. Okay, guys? Okay. If you look here, what is the color of the moon? The color of the moon is red. The color of the moon is red. Okay. Why the color of the moon is red in the total lunar eclipse? Why? This is the answer. During the start of total lunar eclipse, the color of the moon tends to be red. The color of the moon, red in the start of total lunar eclipse. Why? Because the Earth's atmosphere, of course, you know that the Earth has atmosphere. The atmosphere of the Earth doesn't absorb infrared rays coming from the sun, doesn't absorb the infrared rays coming from the sun, and refracts these rays on the moon, refracts these rays on the moon. So this is why the moon appears in a red color. Again, why the moon appears in a red color during the total lunar eclipse? Because the Earth's atmosphere doesn't absorb infrared rays coming from the sun and reflects them on the moon. Okay? What about the partial lunar eclipse? If you look here, this is the sun, this is the Earth, this is the moon. Here, the moon not in the umbra. Only part of the moon in the umbra and the other part in the penumbra. Again, part of the moon in the umbra and the other part in the penumbra. So, when part of the moon enters the shadow area of the Earth, which is called umbra, and the other part of the moon enters the semi-shadow area of the Earth, which is called penumbra, so in this case, partial lunar eclipse will take place. So, partial lunar eclipse, it is a lunar eclipse, which happens when a part of the moon enters the shadow area umbra of the Earth and the other part enters the semi-shadow area penumbra of the Earth. Okay? Okay. What will happen if the whole moon enters here? What will happen if the whole moon enters here in this area? I told you before, the name of this area is what? Is penumbra, right? So what will happen if the whole moon enters here, not only part, the whole moon? In this case, the moon will not be eclipsed, will not be eclipsed. So there is no eclipse here. So if the whole moon enters the semi-shadow area of the Earth, which is called penumbra, so in this case, the moon will not be eclipsed. So this is why we call this lunar no eclipse or lunar non-eclipse. Lunar no eclipse or lunar non-eclipse. When the whole moon enters the semi-shadow area penumbra of the Earth. And the moonlight turns to be faint. The light of the moon, in this case, will be faint without being eclipsed. Okay? Without being eclipsed. Okay. I told you before in the beginning of the session that there is no annular lunar eclipse here. I told you in the solar eclipse that we have annular solar eclipse. But in the moon, there is no annular lunar eclipse. Why? Why there is no annular lunar eclipse in the moon? Because the Earth has great size relative to the moon. So it always blocks sunlight from reaching the moon when it comes between the sun and the moon. If you look here at this picture, and if I told you make a comparison between the side of the Earth and the side of the moon, you will tell me that the side of the Earth is greater than the side of the moon. So in this case, the Earth always blocks sunlight from reaching the moon. The Earth always blocks sunlight from reaching the moon. So the sun will not be appeared as lighting ring. The sun will not be appeared as lighting ring because the size of the Earth bigger than the size of the moon, so it always blocks sunlight from reaching the moon. Okay, guys? Okay. Now a comparison between solar eclipse and lunar eclipse. The first thing, solar eclipse. Solar eclipse happens when the moon comes between the earth and the sun on one straight line. So in the solar eclipse, what in the middle? The moon is in the middle. In the solar eclipse, the moon is in the middle. What about lunar eclipse? Lunar eclipse, it happens when the earth comes between the moon and the sun on one straight line. It happens when the earth comes between the moon and the sun on one straight line. So now in the lunar eclipse, the earth in the middle. So in the solar eclipse, the moon in the middle. In the lunar eclipse, the earth in the middle. The time I can see solar eclipse in the morning, but I can see lunar eclipse when? At night. We can see solar eclipse in the morning, but lunar eclipse at night. Solar eclipse takes only 7 minutes and 40 seconds, 7 minutes and 40 seconds, but lunar eclipse can take 1 hour or 2 hours or more than 2 hours. 1 hour or 2 hours or more than 2 hours. What about the harm? Which one of them harm the eyes? The solar eclipse harm the eyes, affect the retina of the eye. But the lunar eclipse doesn't cause any harm to the eyes. So which one of them will need precautions? Of course, the one that will harm the eye need precaution. So solar eclipse harm the eyes, so it needs precautions. So it requires special glasses to observe it. What about lunar eclipse? The lunar eclipse doesn't harm the eyes, so it doesn't require any special glasses to observe the lunar eclipse. What are the types of each one? The types of solar eclipse are total solar eclipse, partial solar eclipse, and annular solar eclipse. But in the lunar eclipse, we have only 2 types, total lunar eclipse and partial lunar eclipse. So again, what are the types of solar eclipse? Total solar eclipse, partial solar eclipse, annular solar eclipse. What are the types of lunar eclipse? Total lunar eclipse and partial lunar eclipse. Okay? Look here. This is the sun, this is the moon, and this is the earth. So in the middle here, we will find the moon. So when the sun, the moon, the earth are on one straight line and the moon in the middle, so this is called solar eclipse. It's called what? Solar eclipse. But when the sun, the earth, the moon are on one straight line, the sun, the earth, the moon are on one straight line, and the earth in the middle, and the earth in the middle. So in this case, this is called lunar eclipse. This is called lunar eclipse.